I've been coaching for over 20 years, and the one question that Kevin asked me here, I've never thought about before. I've never asked someone before, and it can change everything in your life starting today. Watch this episode.
Welcome to another exciting show of transformation. Prosper with Wayne, creating wealth, health, and happiness in your life. With your host, life and business coach, author, entrepreneur, and lover of life, Wayne Sutton. Prepare to become excited, expand your beliefs, and truly prosper in all the areas of your life. Enjoy.
This show is going to be mainly for men, but of course for our women listeners, you get to peek into the mind of an advanced men's coach. Kevin Curtis, so good to have you on here today. I'm excited to share your experience with the listeners and maybe gain a little bit for myself as well. So that's why I love bringing on great guests like you. I get to glean some knowledge out of it. So, but
Thrilled to be
thanks
here.
again for jumping on with us today at Prosper with Wayne.
Thank you, Wayne.
Absolutely. One of the things, we were talking about your website just a little bit earlier, and you open your site with a powerful question. How do you want to feel? Why do you think men, and I'm assuming that most men never slow down to even ask that question or, and never answer it, I guess. Tell me a little bit of, I'd just like to start there. Why do you ask that question, and kind of how does that fit into what you're doing with the men you're working with?
Well, I think you touched on it. Men don't really know how to answer that question. How do I want to feel? Most of the time they're impulsive, they're reactive. They move from situation to situation, and they don't stop for that 1 second to say, how do I want to feel? They may say they feel terrible. I'm tired, I'm angry, I'm hungry, all that stuff, but they don't ask themselves, really, how do I want to feel? So I think it's a hard question to answer, and I want to help them figure that out.
Do you find it's hard? Well, I'm just looking at my own life. Like I said, I'm analyzing my own self. Is it hard to answer, or maybe they just never thought to answer it, never been asked that question?
I think it's they've never been asked that question. I run a men's group, and I ask another question that makes men think. Tell me a little bit about who you are without telling me what you do.
Yes, I've asked that many times myself.
Right. So, sometimes there's these really obvious questions that we never get asked. And if we don't get asked those questions, we don't think about those things. And we don't think about the things, we can't sort of evaluate what's going on in our lives because we're always going.
Obviously, you don't want to miss a single episode. Creating health, creating wealth, creating happiness. That's what this channel is about. So go and hit the subscribe button. If you're watching this and you haven't subscribed yet and you're on YouTube, click the button and click the little bell so you're notified every time we bring out a new episode. Great interviews, great training, and the tools that you need to live a prosperous life. If you're listening to this and you're on audio, maybe you're on, any of our Apple Podcast, any other platform, then be sure to subscribe there as well. And leave us a 5-star review. Would be very, very helpful. Again, I look forward to bringing you more content, and we are looking for you to give us feedback. So give us feedback. So subscribe, give feedback, comment, and I look forward to continuing to bring you massive value. Let's get back to the show. Yeah, I think really looking back in ministry and working with people, I think most men have a preconceived notion of how I should feel, or we're not allowed to feel a certain way. Real men don't cry, or real men don't do this, but I have never, and I'm 52 years old, I don't think anybody's ever asked me, how do you want to feel? Which when I saw that, I was like, wow, what a question.
So if you had to answer that question, how would you answer it?
Wow, here we are, coaching 101. If I had to answer that question, and I don't know, I really don't. I think immediately I want to feel confident. But then I go like, what does confident mean? And I go into, I want to feel like it depends. Where around my family, I want to feel like I'm the provider, the protector, the the guide, the prophet that, that sets forth the vision. In work, I want to feel confident. I want to feel secure. So I guess I don't know. I mean, I guess it would change from situation to situation, I
Hmm.
guess. Yeah.
But I think often we don't do that enough, right? You just explained to me two things that were really important to you: your family and your work, and you're seemingly you feel confident in both those places. So you're happy
Mm.
with the way you feel
Yeah.
with those two particular parts of your life. Now there might be other parts you don't feel that way, but those two in particular seems like you feel
Mm.
good. You feel content. You feel fulfilled.
Most of the time. And that's, I think, yeah, yeah. And I think that's a really good thing, Kevin, because now and we won't cover it here for the world to hear, but there's some other areas that like, how do I want to feel in this area? I think that's really good. That alone, I hope the men, and of course, I know my listeners, a huge female audience. You know, you're listening to. You can ask the same question, uh, but but Kevin, that's really great. Um, and I'm assuming when people really get honest about that, vulnerable about that, that can really help a lot of people. Like
That's right.
realize where they're at and where they're not. I think
That's
that's a
right.
big thing.
You touched on the woman part of it. There's a little part on my website. It's
I saw that.
advancedmencoaching.com for the women. And I feel as if sometimes women want their partners to be strong, um,
Mm,
and don't know how to help. Because to your point, we're strong. I got this, the machismo crap. Excuse my language.
yes. Yeah.
And if there's an opportunity for the woman to say something to their partner in the right moment to talk about this kind of coaching, they should do that. But you've got to approach your partner at the right time. If you're in a relationship with somebody and there's something you want to discuss with them, you always try and find the right time to do it, right?
Sure.
Pick up your socks off the floor. Whatever it is, you wait for the right moment and then you have the conversation. This would be no different. You got to find the right time for your partner to be receptive to this kind of a thing, for him to say, maybe I should think about this a little bit.
Yeah, it's such a great point there. When I'm working with clients, I often say, um, how would you how would you approach you in this situation? How would you coach yourself in this situation? And it is a lot of time, and it goes back to one of the things I talk about in ministry a lot for men. This is in the Christian faith, so for those who are believers and listening to this or can follow that, it is be the priest, be the provider, be the protector, and be the prophet. And those 4 Ps are so important to me. But what happens with a lot of men is they've never even labeled that. And let's even take it outside of the Christian realm. Just what do you mean by you're a provider, whatever your faith is? You're a protector. You are a prophet, just means you cast a vision. And then a priest means the spiritual if you're not religious, it could be the mindset of the household. The Sutton family believes this. But I think a lot of men never take time to even determine that they are given a lot of responsibility. And as you said, they're just merely existing. I get up, I do my work, maybe eat a few bites of food here and there. Um, and then that's just how it's supposed to be.
Right.
But
There-
you're helping people realize there's so much more.
I am.
Yeah.
It's just
Good.
it's going through the motions through life, or it's embracing your life. Right.
Mm,
As men, we do have a role. We want to provide. We want to be strong. We want to be vulnerable. We want to be there for our families, our communities, and our partners. And I strongly believe that to do that, you have to sort of take hold of yourself a little bit, but in such a way where it's not demeaning or demoralizing or, you know, egotistical in any way, shape, or form. So you can be the best man that you can be and feel good about who you are. And then once you feel good about who you are, the rest will sort of roll downhill.
that's good. That's good. One of the things I think is really important, and I know we talked about this before show, um, is
not always, and I think this is very, very important for maybe even the women listening, for the men that are in their life. Men don't need more advice. They need a path forward. They need, so can you explain for the listeners the difference between like good advice and real transformation?
Sure. Look, the way I coach and my philosophy is everything has to come from within. I named my company Advanced Men Coaching because advancement is moving forward in a purposeful way. Advanced men is moving men forward in a purposeful way. You've got to have some direction and you've got to have some buy-in, and you need a little bit of a map. You got to know your why. And for some men, that's hard to figure out. And once you know your why, that's your fuel. And then you find your purpose, and that's your path. So when you think through that, everything else will work because there's an inner heartbeat to what you're doing. And lifeline, I guess you would say, to keep you confident and loving and kind and all the other things that we hope to do as men.
Yeah, I recently had a guest on, Adam Nager, and he said something very similar. He said it's the why. When you know your why, nothing will stop you. And I've said that often. If you know what you'll die for, would you live for the same thing? And people all the time, I'll die for my family. I'll die for my family. Well, you're not living for them.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
So you might as well die for them. You're not living for them. So what I mean by that is be the best you can be and provide, etc. And I think a lot of times people just miss that. And I think people in general, they don't see their own constraints. When I'm doing business coaching, it's so easy because it's numbers and we can look and where your constraints here, and if we can solve this constraint, we should see growth. But when we work with people, sometimes we don't see their own roadblocks from being intentional, partners, fathers, leaders. If you've got that kind of map you talked about, how do you help them, I guess, break through? If somebody's watching this, they're like, I know my why, I just don't know what the next step. How do you help people break through?
Well, that's what coaching is about. And that's why you sort of have to we have these conversations. The hard part, I want to go back to something about the why. A person's why can change over the course of their lifetime. So what your why was at 20 may be very different when you become a parent when you're 30. And that's okay. So understanding that is important. And once you figure out what your why is, I have a client right now who's struggling to find his why. He just turned 30, doesn't know his why. And I said, it will come to you. Just lean back and let it come to you.
Yeah.
I used to be in the music business for 30 years. And there's this expression for people who listen to music using Spotify. If you're a lean forward kind of person, you're the one who's always tinkering with it and trying to find the right song all the time. And then there's the lean back person who just hits a playlist and lets it go. That's the way you got to.
Back. Yeah,
I'm a lean back too. Just pick a song and let it go. It's like old school FM radio. Whatever comes up, comes up.
Sure. Yeah.
But that's kind of what the purpose is. You don't go digging for it. It'll come to you. And once you figure that out, then we can find a path. People come to you for coaching. They know what they want to do. You help them find a path.
So true. And a lot of that goes back, if they come to me for coaching, and we're going to get into their inner values. We'll get into their temperament, their inborn temperament. But then if I go more on the consultant side, that's where I think the biggest difference. I think a lot of people listening to this need to understand a coach may not bring a solution, but a consultant needs to bring a solution.
That's right.
It's a difference in there. And I think the two get intermingled so much. I know they do in my world because I walk in both paths.
They definitely do. Like there's 4 modalities that I talk about. There's coaching, which is helping you move forward. Each coaching session has an outcome. There's therapy, where a therapist will sort of talk about what goes on in your past. Doesn't necessarily help you find a path forward. There's a consultant who you pay to kind of tells you what to do. A, B, C, and D, and you should be fine. And then there's a mentor, somebody who's done exactly what you want to do and will help you along the way. And then there's your family and friends that say, oh, you should just do that. So
Hmm.
what you talk about there's differences in having people understand the difference between mentorship and coaching and consulting and therapy. They're all very different. And when you know,
Yeah.
do your homework, you'll understand what's the right path for you.
It's very good, and I think exactly right, because I've had people come to me for business consulting, even mentorship in areas, and then all of a sudden I'm like, "Hey, we're in the therapy realm here because their mother, did this to them when they were 8 years old or whatever." It's just real stuff. I have been trained, and I think where it really hits me is I have been trained in those modalities. I went to school to be a therapist, went through that, went into coaching, went into business. But I think for a lot of people, they need to realize, what do I need in this moment? Do I need that mentor? Do I need that coach? But I think when a statement I believe was on your website, once a man finds his clarity, he may never need another coach again. That's a bold statement, and I love it. I love it, self leadership, I guess you would call it, when
Yeah,
he
it's just
finds
a tool of
clarity.
the tool chest. Once you understand how to use it and how to ask yourself the right questions. I mean, it's like I don't know if you're a golfer, but if you play golf, every once in a while, you're like, your swing's off and you call the coach and say, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm twisting my hips. I'm too far back. And they just help tweak you a little bit and bring you back on the path to hit that ball straight down the fairway. If you go through a coaching program with me, you'll have the tools that you need, but that doesn't mean every once in a while you might not come back for a tune up. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And I also
Yeah.
think another thing that's important here is if men sort of looked at themselves as a business, right? Like people come to you because they have questions about what they want to do with their business.
Right. Sure.
They need help. So if I was running a company and I needed data analytics and I don't have that as part of my company, I would hire it out. I hire a firm to can help me process all my data. So if you look at yourself as a business and say, you know what, this part of my life isn't as fulfilling as I want it to be. I
Mm.
need a little support here. That's when you would call a coach.
Yeah. And Kevin, that's so important. And um, I think as far as men, I think a lot of times they see that in certain areas, but maybe not other areas. I will say this. I think one of the things that really has helped with information age, I really believe it started with YouTube. Anything you want to fix now, you just YouTube, how do I fix it? But the other day I found something. I was like, I just took a picture of it and asked ChatGPT, and it told me. So there's information. Like, we live in an information age like there's never been. But sometimes we rely just on information instead of revelation, or information instead of transformation. And that's where the personal help comes in. I know men will go get a fitness trainer. People get a fitness trainer to get in shape. Um, Number of months ago, I was extremely, extremely sick, some surgeries, and I thought, hey, let me just reach out and find people. I literally found people that had overcome what what I was overcoming, or what was taking me down, and started studying in that. And I went yeah. And I realized there's coaches for everything. I knew that anyway. I have trained coaches, but here's a coach for this digestive disorder. Here's a coach for this. Um, I share a funny story though about coaching. I think we're in an age where people are beginning to see more and more. I had somebody ask me a few years ago, is coaching a saturated market? I said, oh, no, no, no. Coaching is just opening up where people are recognizing it. But I had a neighbor knock on my door several years ago, a young teenage boy, and he's like, "Can I mow your lawn?" And I'm like, "But dude, I did it like 3 days. It was done 3 days ago." And he's like, "Can I mow it though? And I need some money." And I'm like, I respect the hustle. Sure, let's go knock it out. What are you trying to get money for? And it was a game, and I don't remember the game. It was Fortnite or I don't know if it was Fortnite, but it was a game. And he said, "I'm hiring a coach that's going to help me get to the next level." And I said, "What? I'm a coach. I live on this." I'm like, "This is amazing." But he was literally trying to earn $100 to hire a coach to help him get to the next level on a video game as a teenager. I was like, "Dude, here's some money. I respect your hustle. I love that you're reaching out. If he'll take that mindset into other areas of life, oh my goodness, what that boy will become." Um, it's just, I love that, finding clarity and being willing. And I think that's something we have to do as men too. Say, I don't know how to do this. I need help here. Um, well, I don't want to do this, so I can
Yeah,
outsource it. Either one.
right.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah. Um, so if I can ask, I mean, I'm curious, and I know our listeners probably are too. How did you get involved in helping other people? That's always a passion of mine, is to help others, but you're doing it as a career. How'd you get into coaching?
Well, during the pandemic, but actually before the pandemic, I was in a men's group. Let me back up a little bit. You said something about sometimes when you first got sick, you started Googling stuff to try and find, or
Yeah,
chat GPTing something. So
yeah,
I lost my father when I was 20 years old. And I had a wonderful stepfather. He was great. He was around. But I never really gave much thought to the fact that my dad wasn't around. I always thought that if I needed to buy a car, I would just Google it and figure out how to buy a car. But what I realized I lost was the conversations over cream cheese or, a coffee. And
yeah.
I realized that I needed more connection with men. I had plenty of friends that were women, but I didn't have a lot of good, meaningful relationship with men. So I was going through a divorce. It was the pandemic. I found a men's group locally here in Los Angeles, and that men's group basically changed my life. From the first day I sat in with that group of men who welcomed me with open arms, I said stuff in there that I'd never spoken out loud ever, not even to a therapist. And it was liberating.
Yeah.
And I realized there were other men like me who were having the same issues I was having and also wanted to talk about it. So I really loved that connection. So for me,
Mm.
the idea of going back to get a LMFT was just not something that was in the cards for me. And this was a way for me to develop relationships, do some good work, make connections with men. And so that's why I got into coaching.
I love it. I love it. I also was looking at doing the LFMT path. Um, but there was a couple reasons I didn't, and got into coaching and business consulting, and thought, hey, yeah, I love that. I love that. I think the men's group is so important. I'm part of a men's group here locally. And yeah, and we're. It was so funny because I have to say this for my listeners that are of the Christian faith. A lot of them can be very religious. And I walked into one, and it was exactly opposite of that. Now, we talked about Christ, and we talked about the Word of God, but um, they were sitting around. Just everything else was different. Everything else was like real, raw, no self righteousness. The language wasn't Christian, and I'm like, it messed my paradigm up. And what it made me realize was there's a lot of men that need real freaking help and real people. And part of that's where we're doing Prosper with Wayne now. I want to teach people how to prosper in health, wealth, and happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And to do that, you got to realize in what you said earlier, again, I get back to that. How do I want to feel? I've never asked or been asked that, but I'm borrowing that. So thank you.
Feel free. If it helps one
Yeah.
man, it makes sense.
Well, my first men's meeting. So we'll go back to that though. Again, I'll go back to the ministry side. It's usually, hey, what's going on in your life? What do you need prayer for? And I started that way. I was like, what do you need prayer for? And finally, his name's Jeff. If he's watching this, I owe him this. And Jeff said, Wayne, stop. Men think they have it all figured out. I said, yeah, I know, but we don't. He said, yeah. Just ask them what's important to them right now and pick 2 topics. So we've picked life and business, life and jobs. And we would just start every Tuesday night with what's important to you, Wayne. And I knew to talk about my family, and I knew to talk about my business or whatever, or my health, whatever's important. And it got us to open up at another level. And my goodness, the transparency, the vulnerability, and the support.
That's what
I
I
would
think is, yeah,
no,
that's what's
please go ahead.
important to your point is creating a safe environment. You can do that because you created a safe environment for them to do that. And I think that's well done on your part.
Yeah, and you have to have that safe environment. I totally agree with you on that. You got to be careful. The whole world doesn't need to know your business, just those who are there on care with you and walk you through it. And I've told my best friend many times, there's nothing that you can share with me that's going to break that friendship or make me look at you different? And he's tested me on that. but it's but it has built that, you know, that place of trust. Um, and I love, you know, we were talking in the beginning before the show. You're like, why am I doing these longer style podcasts now? And that's it. You know, it's one thing to get on here and bring a YouTube short, Instagram reel, bring some, but it's another thing to really hear somebody and to share uh, and learn. And I think that's what I'm glad that you're doing that in your niche for your people. And I think that's so important. When we look at um, moving to one level to another level to another level, what do you feel like is what is key when you're helping a man? Maybe he's found clarity, he's got his why, and he's moving forward. What are some other stepping stones or some other areas of life that you would help them go through?
I don't know if it's necessarily another area of life, but it's understanding your energy in any given moment. You know, in my coaching, we talk a little bit about catabolic energy and anabolic energy. And sometimes an example of catabolic energy is you have a meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning and you're just not feeling it, right? You ran late, you slept late, the coffee was
Sure.
terrible this morning, you're just in a foul mood. That's catabolic energy. And then there's sometimes where you get to work, there's no traffic, your favorite song comes on the radio, the sun is shining, and you're in a great mood. That's anabolic energy. So being aware of where you are at any given moment is the first step to understanding how you can change your energetic level and how you can have the strength and the wherewithal to tackle whatever's in front of you. So,
So would that be state management when you recognize what state you're in? Would that be
yeah.
similar to okay? Yeah, and I think that's extremely.
And
I work when I'm working with high performing salespeople. I tell them you have to know your state, and you need to be able to collapse a negative anchor and anchor in a positive state. You've got to be able to walk in with that. And truly, some days you don't feel it, but if it's on the agenda, if it's what we have to do, then your obligations and your, I guess you would say, your agenda for the day to get you through those days. But I think it's a good point. Catabolic or anabolic state. It's good.
yeah, I mean, it could be, look, there's little tricks you can do, like to flip your parasympathetic nervous system, you know, to get out of your head. Let's stop all we call them gremlins that are rolling around in your head that are just bringing you down. Right? It's a silly little thing like scratch your jeans with your hands for 10 seconds and just what does that feel like? So you just come out of your head for a second. It's like the equivalent of taking a deep breath. Everybody says take a deep breath, right? Before you go in. That's a way to connect to your parasympathetic nervous system. You know, just scratching your fingers on your jeans for 10 seconds. And then like, what does that feel like?
Oh,
And
okay. So
it's a
changing the
subtle little thing.
sensory,
Yeah.
yeah, the sensory input, maybe. Yeah, that's good.
And, and if you practice that throughout the course of a day, all the time, you'll be able to do it quicker and more efficiently. And it's just,
Mm,
you don't have to change your behaviors in any way. It's just like, how does
yeah,
the coffee taste today? It's a little bitter. You know, it's those little physical things that take you out of your head into your body.
that's so good. That's so good. This has been really a good call. If you're open to it, and I normally don't ask this on the call, but I would love to have you come back and maybe jump into an area of changing the nervous system, or maybe go a little bit deeper. You know, I think it would be a great conversation.
Sure, I'd
Um,
love that.
yeah, because I think, and of course, we're going to have all of your information in the show notes. People can reach out to you, but I really think people need to realize sometimes you are just one mentor away, you're one person away, you're one idea away from a great life instead of a mediocre life. Years ago, I was burning the candle at both ends and the middle, and my wife was smart enough to say, "What are you doing?" And I said, this, and this is average in my life. Now, some things I'm good with average, but some things I'm not. And I said these three areas are average at best, and they're not going to be. And and I realized, as you said, I had to find somebody that could help me in those areas. I think you did a really good job of talking about the difference between a coach, a consultant, a mentor, therapist. And I'd advise everybody to go back and listen to that and go, which one do I need? Which one am I? You know? You may not be a therapist, but there's people that come to you for therapy. Or you may not be a mentor with a website and spotlights, but you're probably mentoring people every single day. I tell my wife she mentors our children. Without
Hmm.
it, I have 4 daughters at home. She is a mentor by her lifestyle. And
Also a girl dad.
also, okay, I have a son and 4 daughters. So,
Gotcha.
um, yeah, and I can't mentor my daughters that way. I can mentor, but I can't be the mom.
Hmm.
But then there's other areas I can be. So great. Um, Tell people how the best way to get in touch with you. I'm sure it's your website, but website, LinkedIn. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you,
Yeah,
Kevin?
the best way is www.advancemencoaching.com. ADVANCEMEN coaching.com. That's got all my
Advanced.
links. I'm on Instagram, I'm on
Awesome.
LinkedIn, but that's the best way.
Good. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're definitely going to, again, I'll have that in show notes as well. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, click that little bell, click that share button. Somebody else needs to see this. You never know. You never know if something I said or all the wisdom that Kevin just dropped in the last 30 minutes, there's something that somebody needs to hear. And if you're listening to this audio, same thing. Thank you for the good feedback and continue to subscribe for more. Kevin, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Health, wealth, and happiness. You get to choose any of those 3 and leave us one piece, one nugget, one golden nugget.
Happiness. Always happiness. Happiness will drive your health, your wealth. But if you're not happy inside here and don't know who you are and the kind of man you want to be, then the rest of it doesn't matter.
Absolutely. And what's your key to help somebody unlock happiness, recognize happiness, achieve happiness?
You're not alone. We've all gone through it. We all experience it. We might not verbalize it, but we'll help verbalize it and get it out.
That's
You're
good.
not alone.
That's so good. That's so good. Kevin, again, I truly appreciate you being on here today. I
I
hope this is
appreciate
really
you,
going to help
Wayne.
a lot of people. And for everybody else, I just want to say thanks for jumping on again. Another show of Prosper with Wayne, and I'll see you on the next show.
Take good care.
Thanks for joining us again at Prosper with Wayne. Be sure to subscribe to us for more exciting, life-changing episodes. Go today, in fact. Go now to prosperwithwayne.com and enter your email for our exclusive newsletter and other resources. God bless and go prosper.